You know, this is an important dialogue of SADC member states, particularly to look at what it is that we have taken up since Swaziland, or Swatini now, as it is called. But one of the things that I've picked up is the fact that, you see, as SADC member states, we have come to the realization that it is really important that we look at what will move us forward towards industrialization of our different states. And for us to do that, we are saying some of the critical areas, we've got to look at centers of excellence within our different states. And this center of excellence should not be duplicated. For example, we need to identify within, let's say, a country like Namibia, our universities are known for what specific fields? In which fields are they outstanding? What about Botswana? Where do they outstand? I mean, where do they actually surpass all the others in the region as university? The same to South Africa. So that then we can actually begin to tap from the variety of expertise that exists within our country. But we just don't want to do it in a haphazard manner, and hence the need for proper coordination in the establishment of these centers of excellence, and which I believe going forward will be able to concretize. Secondly, the other thing is actually looking at TVET, technical and vocational education, which all over the world, it has been identified as the main mover of industrialization, the main mover of jobs creation, as well as an important component that could help us address our youth unemployment challenges in our different member states. Again, here we are saying TVET is a very important area, but we are not at the same level as member states in terms of its development. Now, those who have leapfrogged and benefited, in a positive light within TVET, we need to share expertise. We need to share the professional knowledge that is actually driving TVET in some of these states. Take, for instance, South Africa. Indeed, there's a lot that maybe a country like Namibia, within the TVET sector, we can learn from. Not only South Africa, not only those who are within SADC, but also externally. But within this context, we are looking at how do we, within SADC, begin to share expertise that exists within our different states, and put it to good use, and make it the instrument for our industrialization process.
Let's talk about that process further, particularly in Namibia. How far would you say Namibia has come in terms of the fourth industrial revolution process, and also within the education system?
One thing that Namibia has done with regards to industrialization and digitalization is that there are instruments, policy instruments that are in place. For example, our STI policy is in place. The same applies also for our TVET system. There is an act that is driving that. But I must say that we still need to take greater efforts to make sure that we streamline the process of digitalizing our education system. And when I talk about this, I'm not only looking at tertiary education that I represent. Education is a continuum, hence the need for everything that is meaningful and that can be transformative to actually begin at the lower level of education. The tendency in Namibia has been to confine things like learning computing and whatnot to universities. But that should not be the case anymore, because really the creative minds it starts much lower. Even at preschool, if we can expose our kids to the use of computers and everything else that comes with it, it's important, because then you lay the right competencies for them to function better as they advance within the area of education. But I can say the instruments are in place for us to really hone in on these important areas that will help to move forward our industrialization process. And the good thing also is within SADC, as I said, we are not at the same level in terms of our level of development in this area. And that's the beauty, that's where the beauty of sharing expertise, sharing knowledge through staff and student exchanges could actually happen under the SADC protocol on education and training, as well as the SADC protocol on science, technology, and innovation.
So you've spoken about confinement as one of the key challenges. What are some of those other challenges, and really how are you navigating around those?
Within SADC, I would say the main challenge that we face is funding. One thing that came up in our meeting is that centers of excellence have been identified across the SADC member states. However, the challenge and hindrance, major impediment is funding, limited funding or no funding, to the extent that some of the identified institutions that can drive specific fields that are considered to be critical to the advancement of SADC, those programs cannot run because there are no funds. Maybe what is critical for us to think about as member states is perhaps as we make our subscriptions, when it comes to some of these critical areas that we consider to be uniform in terms of the needs of SADC, we've got to put aside a percentage of our subscription to really drive, like for instance, the centers of excellence. We know that the centers of excellence will move us towards resolving some of the challenges we have, like climate change, not wholly, but some of it, issues of housing, issues of water shortage, issues of food security, and so on. If we leave this, for example, to donor funding, it's not right. I believe some of the critical areas that we know are to move our socio-economic development. We've got to take the lead and actually fund them ourselves as SADC member states. And this is why I'm saying perhaps it's time for SADC states to begin to think about putting aside resources that we put in as our memberships payments towards what we consider to be our grand roadmap of our critical areas that we want our centers of excellence to work on.